Hi, everybody. Bison Video Blog, post-game edition of the Summit League Championship game, where Oral Roberts dominates North Dakota State to a 92-58 score. The Golden Eagles earn the automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. The Bison just got punched in the face in the start of this game and can never recover. With Jeff Kolpak, Mike McFeely, I'm Dom Izzo. I mean, Oral Roberts came out of the gates. They were gunning for this, Jeff, and they never let off the gas here.
That was Bowden Skunberg's exact quote.
Yeah.
They punched us in the face, and we weren't ready for it. I didn't see this really coming at this magnitude. Obviously, our predictions were a little off. I was, after a hot night yesterday.
You get one prediction right,
and it's over.
Came crashing down today. How'd my Bison pick work?
Boy, and it wasn't, I mean, Max Asmus was good. Connor Vanover was great. Patrick Mwamba's not a guy that you look at the Oral Roberts team, Mike, and say, well, he's a guy who might make 4 or 5 threes. He had 20 points tonight, 4 threes in the first half.
He had a season high in points at halftime when he hit a 3 at the buzzer, and then looked at the NDSU band over here and did a little and put them back in the holster, and that was game, set, and match right there. And what a, just a good defensive player, sort of an energy guy for Oral Roberts. He's out there being physical. And then you combine that with Connor Vanover just dominating the lane defensively. Max Asmus had somehow a quiet 26 points. He never went off. It wasn't like a hand grenade where he just went, wow. He was just like pecking away, and the next thing you know, he's got 26, and next thing you know, Oral Roberts is ahead by 40 or whatever it was.
Connor Vanover, though, made his impact right away with a couple of shots that the Bison had to adjust for. He had a couple blocks. He finished with 10 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 blocks. The Bison could never adjust for that.
No, and you could see it right away. And they went inside to Andrew Morgan trying to establish, all right, let's get something going in the post with our big guy. And Connor Vanover got hand 100% on ball and just snuffed it. And Andrew Morgan wasn't the same. I don't think the rest of the game wasn't quite the same guy he's been. And NDSU kept trying to go inside because they couldn't get anything going outside because of Connor Vanover's presence inside. Funny how that works, inside, outside, and they just never got anything going offensively.
And that was the real story of the game. And Grant Nelson held to 9 points, Jeff. I mean, we were all in the same boat with you. He needed to have a monster game here tonight. He was just taken completely out of this game by Oral Roberts.
Yeah, the brilliant ORU coach thought he ran out of gas. 3 days and 3 nights, 3 games in 3 days. It's a lot. And Oral Roberts had that day off. I think that factored into it. But you had a man's team against a team that has, too many boys still. Too many young freshmen. And Oral Roberts is just a solid, there's no weaknesses kind of a team. They weren't tonight. And they were engaged. I didn't think they were that engaged against St. Thomas. They weren't. They weren't.
And that's what Max Asmus said. Max said we just didn't come out with the energy last night, and we could not, quite go over the hump. And tonight we came out from the get-go and had the energy and kept it up the whole game, and they really did.
Yeah, they just never let off the gas. And the Bison supporting cast that's been so good for the first 2 nights of this tournament, whether it be to Javis Miller or Damari Wheeler-Thomas, after he had 17 points and 7 assists last night. At one point, it was early in the second half, 0 points and 1 assist for Wheeler-Thomas.
I think it was about halfway through the second half. He had 0 points and 0 assists. It was just a really, we said this morning, somebody besides, Grant was going to have to have a big game, and then somebody else again was going to have to step up, and just nobody even came close. Bowden Skunberg, to his credit, we keep going. He played well. He played hard. He didn't seem to be overwhelmed by the moment. He just is not going to be able to get away from the athleticism and strength and length of Oral Roberts. But he wasn't a deer in the headlights or afraid. He was out there doing his thing. There just wasn't enough of that.
Real quick on ORU before we focus on the Bison and wrap this up. Likely going to be probably a 12 when we see the NCAA field announced on Sunday. Is this a team, I know you asked Paul Mills this, can they do what they did 2 years ago and reach the Sweet 16?
Yeah, and he kind of dodged and dived and didn't quite answer it. But,
but
he said that, that team had 5 guys that could play all over the floor. And, it's all matchups and things like that, he said. But he had 5 guys that he could move all over the floor and do everything. With Connor Vanover, they're not like that. He can step outside, but he's not as mobile as the other guys. But he said, but we do have some guys we can bring in to make us like that. So it's all about the matchups. It's what Chris Kleiman said for Bison football 10 years ago. It's all about the matchups. If they get the right matchup in the first round, sure, they can get past it. the mock bracket I saw today had him match up against St. Mary's as a 5 seed.
All right.
St. Mary's is getting killed today.
Oh, well, okay.
And Gonzaga won the West Coast today. They beat St. Mary's.
If they get the right matchup, yes, because Asmus can go off. They have a defensive presence, but we'll see how the matchups go.
Let me ask you, gentlemen, this. I'll start with you. This is 2 years in a row the Summit League champion went 21-0. Is that a good thing for the league or a bad thing for the league?
Well, I don't think you're going to see it every year.
Yeah.
It's neither. Give the credit to South Dakota State last year for building the team and ORU for building it up. Now it's up to everybody else to raise your level. It's what NDSU football did to the Missouri Valley. Other teams raised their level to match NDSU and or at least try to come close. The Bison now got to raise their level to ORU, and they're probably going to lose Grant Nelson. I think we believe that he's going to probably do something else next year. They may have to bring in another couple pieces. These 4 freshmen need to continue to elevate their game. Skunberg is going to be the leader next year. I mean, that's a good start. So there's pieces there, but the Bison need to, they need some birthdays. They need to get a little older.
But you know what? What I saw out of Oral Roberts this year was when we talked about this morning as well, is last year they had some pieces and were good, but not the dominant team that they were even the year before.
Right.
I mean, even though they're I think the 4th seed that year, by the end of the year they were by clear the best team in the league. But Paul Mills in the modern era looked at what he needed and went out and got it. And whether you like that or not, whether it's not the old school, he went out and got Connor Vanover, he got Patrick Mwamba. He filled the holes on his team that he thought he needed, and they were dominant. I mean, when you don't lose a game, you're dominant. A guy like him can do that every year.
Right.
I mean, right?
Go get the pick of the litter, whoever you want. What we need. We're deficient here. Let's go get this guy.
And South Dakota State's going to have to do that next year. Maybe North Dakota State's going to have to do that this year.
And that leads to our last question about, as Jeff mentioned, with Grant Nelson's status, which is going to dominate the Bison basketball chatter for the next couple months here. We know Nelson's going to put his name in the NBA draft. We know that's going to happen and go through this whole process. The question is, Mike, and I think I had it asked to me 4 or 5 times here, what's Grant going to do next year? We don't know. I think it's a slim chance he plays for the Bison again.
I agree. I thought earlier on there was a better chance, but just knowing a little bit more about what the process is about and how it works and who all is involved, I just think that once he declares eligibility for the NBA draft, that starts the ball rolling on a whole different world for Grant Nelson. He's going to sign with an agent. He's going to go to one of these training camps where NBA guys go to get, scientifically, like $6 million man, Steve Austin type stuff going on. And then once you get into that world, then there's all kinds of people coming at you. And whether he goes to the NBA draft or he decides to come back to college, if he comes back to college, there's people out there that he's been in contact with that he never would have met. And that just changes the whole picture of what might happen to him.
I mentioned it on the news. It's going to be fascinating. I mean, it really is. This is something we've experienced with the NFL draft coming through Fargo, but this is a whole other kettle of fish we're going to see.
But the difference is you can't come back in the NFL.
Correct.
In college, you can declare and then make a decision if you don't like what you see.
Day before the draft.
Right.
And Max Asmus has done that.
And come back. But again, what opened my eyes was who he's going to see, what world he's going to be in once he leaves Fargo here in a couple of weeks to go start doing this.
So we very well may have seen the last game for Grant Nelson in a Bison uniform here tonight as Oral Roberts dominates NDSU. They finish with a mark of 16-17, and some real questions going forward with this roster. We're interested to see what David Richmond does. He has Derek Doucette, the standout from Minot, coming in next year, and whoever knows with the era of the portal how this is going to make out for what we'll see from the Bison.
There might be other guys that leave NDSU. You just don't know. I know Dave is confident that the guys are going to come back. He's obviously has questions about Grant. He's confident about the other guys, but you just don't know until it happens.
Great stuff, gentlemen, all year long. This is a lot of fun to do this here as the Bison push their season to the absolute limit to try to get to the NCAA tournament, falling short here in the Summit League Tournament Championship game. For Mike McFeely, Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. Bison Video Blog, wrapping up our coverage here in Sioux Falls.